Hello everyone. So today I'm delighted to welcome Tamer Shahin. We've been connecting on LinkedIn, and he's got a fantastic, very interesting background. On his website, he talks about how he's advised country ministers on national policy and multi-billion dollar productivity programs. He's advised corporate titans and so on, and also he's been a serial entrepreneur, and the company he was running was valued at $100 million at one point, and then he had lots of sort of downturns as well, which I'm sure we'll sort of hear about in the course of the show. He's got a very interesting story, and also what he does now is he's a CEO, serial entrepreneur. He's a TEDx speaker, executive coach, consultant, author, speaker, and investor. So he does a lot of things. I'm sure he's very busy. So Tamer, welcome to the show.
Hi, Keith. How are you doing?
Good to see you. So yes, so you do have a sort of very interesting story. So much more. Most of us lead quite boring lives, but so would you like to just talk about your journey from how you started, how you got to phenomenal success, and what happened after that, and so on?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and it sounds like it's been like a lot of things, but which it has been, but sometimes you kind of want to have that kind of quiet, boring life every once in a while. You kind of miss it, and you say, I just want to take some time off and just go into a cottage somewhere and just see nobody. And I think that that was one of the things that I found out quite late, where you sort of get yourself involved in a lot of things, and you chase and you chase and you chase and you sort of want to get to a certain place, which is fantastic for a while. And then you kind of hit a brick wall because you've been sort of not focusing on what really matters in life. And it was only until then where I began to really notice, actually, I don't want to be doing this. I want to be doing this. And so I started out initially as, I did a PhD. I had a PhD in engineering design. And I was lecturing at King's College in London. So I started out there in the academic world. Whilst I was doing that, I did have several side businesses in the property market and so on and so forth, which actually grew to 7 figures plus. And then I was doing consulting on the side with Jaguar, British Aerospace, Ford. I moved to the UAE after that. One of my passion points has always been education, because I actually think that the education system is completely messed up. I think it's been built from, well, it's not, I think it has actually been, it was developed back in the Industrial Revolution to dish out factory workers for people to clock in and clock out. And I thought that I could change it from within, because you sort of, when you're a baby and you're born, you're full of like inspired life, and you try things, and you fall down when you're trying to walk, and you try again, and then you go into school and they tell you don't fail, don't fail, don't fail. And it kind of conditions that whole fear of failure in the back of our minds. So being an entrepreneur and taking risks and having that fear of failure is something that has not been even with me. So I moved to the UAE, Dubai. I was lecturing there at the same time. So I was headhunted by one of the university provosts there to help them get accreditation for their university. And at the same time, I was offered a job in government to advise ministers and head up a productivity program, a national productivity program, which I'd actually introduced as part of my consulting project. So I proposed it, and they sort of hired me to sort of head it up and head up a team, which we grew quite rapidly to about 40 people within government that I was leading. And as part of doing that, I was helping productivity on a national scale within companies in all different sectors, whether it was the manufacturing sector or the retail sector and everything in between. And I was looking at small, medium, large size companies, also from a demographic perspective, to be able to see how we can actually make them more productive and more efficient. Anyway, long story short, I hated all of that. So I was earning a huge salary, and I had an amazing lifestyle. I had a villa with a pool and the Ferraris, and that whole world was there, and I was enjoying it. And I walked away from all of it, and everyone said I was absolutely crazy, because I just didn't enjoy being employed. I wanted to go into business, I had side businesses that were running and people there, but I just wanted to be involved running my own businesses full time. So I moved myself to a small company that I'd invested in and helped start out with some people that I knew quite well. As I was doing that, I saw the potential in it in digital health, in the space of healthcare with technology. And it was a very, very small company at the time when we first started out. I think there was only like about 3 people there. And when I moved in, I think I got rid of 2 and we kind of started from scratch. Within the space of 18 months, that's the company that became valued at $100 million. And it was literally within the space of 18 months where we became a global influencer in the field. Our website had about 2 million page views a month, unique. And that website got acquired by another healthcare organization. And
so it was, so the entire business was just like a website?
No, so what we were doing is we were trying to tip emerging industries into the mainstream, and digital health was one of the first ones that we picked, and we were basically trying to enable it. The website was one of those things where it was a website to create a community of thought leaders. And we had people from Google, we had people from the senior director of Microsoft Health on that website posting and writing his own articles. And it became the go-to place for that industry. On the side, we were doing projects for in Dubai and other countries where we were actually helping the government set up a new digital health based system, because the current healthcare system was also, as much as the education system, that was also screwed up. So and then, so within the space of 30 days, so this is where it all goes wrong. Everything up until now seems, wow, amazing. Yeah. You've lived an amazing lifestyle. And then it all went belly up within the space of 30 days. So we were getting investment into the company valued at $100 million. We delivered a project, an 8-figure project, to a huge client. I'm not going to say who it is, but we delivered, and it was published in the local newspaper, national newspaper. It was on the news, on TV, shook hands, delivered successfully. We had a party and celebrated that we delivered this project successfully. 3 days later, their administration changed and they turned around and they said, we're not honoring any past contracts with anyone.
Right, okay.
And
so this was a private company in Dubai, was it?
It was a large client. And,
a large client.
Yeah, a very large client. And they were so large, you couldn't take them to court because you just wouldn't win. And we turned around.
I've heard similar stories about people doing business in Dubai and that area.
It's crazy. And over there, the law is so. I love the place. It's amazing. If you live a great lifestyle, it's fantastic. And even the people there, the government there, I've worked with them, and they are really inspiring and inspired to try and make the place a better place. But it's still built on a really old infrastructure. So one of the laws that they have there is that whoever signs a post-dated check, even if you sign it as a limited liability company, where in theory you as a person don't have any liability, the person who signs that check is criminally and personally liable to pay that money.
Right.
My business partner, one of my business partners at the time, had signed, and that's the way you do business in Dubai, is that you sign these checks and that becomes your promise to pay the other. So we had subcontractors, several multi-million pounds worth, that we had subcontractors that had delivered some parts of the projects, and we were not able to pay them, and he had signed checks for them. To them, to promise them that we were going to pay. And when we didn't get paid, we were not able to pay them. And he ended up getting arrested at the airport because they had filed a case against him. I ended up having to fire all of my employees across 3 different countries, in the US, in the UK, and in Dubai. One of the employees I had, just 7 days before we were having that party, and she had sat there and told me, this is much more than a job to me, you know, and she'd moved from the UK to Dubai to actually work at this place. And she was saying to me, this is more than a job for me. This is a mission. This is my life. And I had to sit there 7 days later telling her, I'm sorry, we're going to have to let you go. And she was like, I trusted you, you know, I moved my life for you. And it was horrendous. It really was. I ended up having to sell everything I owned. I ended up
Wow.
having to borrow 2.5 million,
Wow.
getting my parents to remortgage their property out of retirement so that I can get my business partner out of prison and out of the country.
Wow.
We ended up from living a lavish lifestyle to literally him, when I bailed him out of prison and we were sitting there, he was literally, we were breaking into his son's piggy bank, rummaging for change so that we can find how much money we've got to buy food for the next 2 weeks, whilst we were negotiating with all of these people how we can get out of the country and
I
how
mean,
we
it was lucky that you were able to borrow that money and access to those funds, because otherwise, otherwise you could have possibly, you could
he
have
would
been
have still been
implicated
in
as
prison.
well.
He would have
Yeah,
still been
and
in
you
prison.
could have
It was,
ended up in trouble as well, presumably, if you
yeah.
would have signed something. So,
Yeah, we were
oh,
hearing that he would be in there for 15 years,
wow,
and
it's
and
incredible, isn't it?
I had to call his wife. He was flying from Dubai to London,
Mm,
um, because his wife was giving birth to their baby,
wow,
and he was going there for the birth, and I had to call her from jail whilst I was trying to figure out what the hell was going on,
yeah,
tell her that he couldn't come home for their birth to be there for.
yeah,
And throughout the whole process, I was like trying to be strong and trying to be like
mm,
a rock, and because everyone was like relying on me and depending on me, and that was it was that moment there that I literally just broke down into tears.
mm,
um, and I was just apologizing to her, saying, I'm sorry, he can't come back and it's my fault.
yeah,
And she was the one that was consoling me. Ironically, she was like telling me, don't worry, it's fine, I'm sure you're going to get him out of this, and I trust you, and all of these
yeah,
things. So we were great friends, including with her. So I
yeah,
knew
yeah,
her really well, so still do.
mm,
So yeah, so and when everything could possibly go wrong, it was going wrong. Just
yeah, yeah,
it was literally, my house flooded at the time there that I was trying to
yeah,
get. I lost all my furniture. I went to sell my car to try and pay the month's salary for 2 employees that I'd left behind to try and keep the business ticking. So I'd fired
yeah,
everyone except 2 employees. I went to sell my car, and as I was selling my car to the person who was buying it, the car had just literally been serviced, and they had forgotten to connect up a hose. So the car overheated and it went up, and it kind of literally went up in flames in front of the person as
yeah,
I was trying to sell the car. So literally, when everything can go wrong, it was going wrong, and
yeah,
it
yeah,
was just a nightmare. Anyway, I got him out of there. I came back here to the UK, and thankfully rebuilt myself again. Was managed to get myself personally out of debt.
mm,
But I was a wreck. I
yeah, I
suffered
bet, yeah,
PTSD. I woke up every morning with huge amounts of anxiety.
sure.
But I rebuilt another tech company, which is also in digital health, and that's the company I gave a TEDx talk on. We won
Okay,
an innovation award as well from Innovate UK on it. So
yeah,
I picked myself up, and and it took me a few years to do that, but I managed to do it, and that's why I'm here today. And it's not about any of that stuff. It's about, like you said, this new business that I've run, which is CEO Entrepreneur, which I've started recently,
okay,
and that is really, I think that for me was one of the things that I had to take a step back on, because even though I picked myself up, I hadn't actually picked myself up. So I'd picked myself up from a career perspective. I'd
mm,
settled my debts. I'd got on. I'd rebuilt a successful business because I know how to, and I've done it before, so I can do
yeah,
it. And I knew, but I had still emotionally and physically not recovered from what had happened.
yeah,
And I was an absolute wreck.
yeah.
And
Well, I think most people would be. I mean, I can't imagine going through an experience like that.
it's, I wouldn't wish it upon my worst enemy, honestly. And
Yeah.
it's one of those things. And so I sat down with a person and I had a long chat afterwards. And he said, "What's wrong?" And I said, "Well, I feel guilty because I let all of these people down, and these
But in a
people."
way, it was outside your control, wasn't it? I mean, supposing you were advising your former self just before, before you went into those contracts and everything, what advice would you give?
You see, that's the
That's
funny thing. We never take our own advice, do we?
yeah,
We're very happy to give out
yeah,
advice and say, you know, this is what you should do. And then when it comes to yourself, for some reason, we're just foolish enough not to listen to any of the advice we tell other people. And I know exactly what you mean. And that's exactly what he said to me.
yeah,
And he said to me at the time, "You're feeling guilty." And I was hiding like a hermit. So
yeah,
in most cases, I wouldn't go to conferences or events because I thought, what if one guy who knows what had happened and I wasn't able to pay them at the time, and he's going to call me a thief and a scam artist,
mm,
and he just said to me, well, how is this guy doing that, you know, was angry with you? And I said, well, actually, he's okay. And he said, well,
mm,
how is this employee doing that you keep on saying that you let her down? And I said, well, she's okay. She's got another job and she's doing great. And he said, well, how's your business partner doing? You know, who's in
yeah,
prison, you know? And I said, well, actually, he's not great, but he's okay. And he's doing
yeah,
well
yeah,
and his family's fantastic. And he said, well, what's your problem?
yeah,
You know, why are you trying to carry the weight of everyone onto your shoulders? Why are you?
sure,
And I said, because I felt I was responsible for them.
yeah,
And then he said to me something which I've not let go afterwards. And he basically, well, actually, somebody else said that to me as well. And he said, responsibility is not, the word responsible is about being response-able, not carrying other people's weight on your shoulder.
yes,
So it's not to carry their burdens, but it's to
no,
carry the responsibility to make them carry their own burdens and make sure that they do it well or properly.
yeah,
And yeah, and like you said, it wasn't my fault. However, I went back and I rewrote my whole narrative. He said to me, and he said, go back in the same way that we look at an event. And actually, he didn't say this to me. It was me. The way that you look back at an event, sometimes at the time it's horrendous and it's a
mm,
disaster, and then you look back at it 2 years later and you laugh and you say, "Oh, that was funny."
mm,
The event hasn't changed, but it's your
yeah, yeah,
perspective on how you see it has changed. So
that's
I went, yeah. So I went back and I rewrote exactly what had happened and how I saw it, and then I try and said exactly, all right. So if I was giving myself advice, let me take
yeah,
out of this. How would I see this in a different perspective?
yeah. I mean, I think there are inherent risks anyway in operating in that part of the world, and also there's just inherent risks in just having one client or that's so big, that's so massive that your whole company is dependent on that. And you had
Yeah,
both of those together, but you sort of knew in a way the risks you were taking, and so did your business partner. So did this woman who came out to work there. Or if they didn't know, you know, they shouldn't. You should have known. You know, there are the
yeah.
risks, and obviously there are incredible benefits as well. So you've got to weigh them against each other and make a decision.
Yeah, and I think that because we thought that this client was reliable to pay, that was our
Yeah,
mistake.
yeah,
We learned a lot. I learned a lot, and we had grown way too fast without having set up the correct infrastructure and the right
sure.
systems and processes and the checks in
Yeah,
place that we needed to have. And
yeah,
that was a huge learning lesson as well, from a business perspective. That
yeah,
you only learn the hard way sometimes,
yeah,
and sometimes not as big as this, but you know, you learn it nonetheless. And we had grown way too fast,
yeah,
and we had different people in roles that are used to running smaller size companies and not
yeah,
larger size businesses. And had we had looked at this the right way, we probably wouldn't have got into that trap. Yes, it wasn't our fault. Yes, we got, somebody didn't end us, you know, paying us, but had we put the right systems in place and the right checks in
yeah.
place, then I think we probably wouldn't have been having, I wouldn't have had that story. But had that not happened,
Mm,
actually it was one of the worst things that had happened to me, but it turned out it was one of the best things that had happened to me, because I'm a much better business person nowadays. I know how
yeah,
to, like, really what happens when things go wrong, and I know that
yeah.
I can get out of it, and I've got the strength to do that. So
Okay.
whenever I'm looking at risk now, I say, well, you know, I've been through worse. I can do this and I can handle this. And
Yeah, yeah.
but also I met my wife. You know, had I not come back to London and met this amazing person,
Right.
you know, had that not happened, I would have never met her. So
Yeah.
that whole incident and that whole event actually ended up making my life so much richer,
Okay.
in a different way, and I'm highly appreciative of that.
Hmm.
Yeah, so that's why I set up CEO Entrepreneur, which is basically there to when I went back and rewrote that narrative, I said to myself, I don't want to be doing tech companies anymore. I don't want to be in the VC world. I don't want to be, it wasn't something that I thought was where I wanted to be anymore. I thought my mindset and my mission had changed, and my mission was, I want to make sure, going back to my old education roots, I want to make sure that entrepreneurs who are trying to grow and scale businesses don't fall into these same traps, and have the right systems and understand how to grow and scale a business without sacrificing overwhelm and stress and lifestyle and health and all of
So why is it that you made the decision to go that route rather than to stay in the tech company VC world, which obviously you've got a lot of expertise in, and presumably you could make money very easily in that world?
Yeah, because I still have this other company which now I've handed over. I've got nothing to do with. But I felt that it wasn't my mission. My journey was much. I felt that I needed someone to support me at the time when I was going through all of this. I tried hiring coaches during that process.
Yeah.
And none of those coaches helped me, because none of the coaches had actually run a proper business and grown it and scaled it to a certain level.
Yeah.
A lot of these coaches, with all due respect to them, you know, they're great, but they are more about mindset and about making you find the answers within. But sometimes you don't have those answers, and you don't have that experience. And what I'm doing is I'm setting up a process where people can have a safe place they can come to, understand that this is how you grow a business. This is how you can become the CEO of your own business, no matter how small it is. And understand that running a business is not the same as understanding the industry you run the business in. It's a completely different kettle of fish. You can be an expert at design or at, you know, social media or in marketing. But a lot of the times people, even those, the gurus that are online at the moment, a lot of them come from the marketing world, which is fantastic. And I think marketing, by the way, and I know this is marketing that we're talking about, and we're going to get into that in a second. Marketing is a huge component, and digital marketing is a huge component in being able to grow a business. And it's, you can't avoid it. But that's not the only element that it takes to be able to run a proper business and grow it. And I'm sure you know that you've done that in the past. So for me, it was more about, in addition to marketing and in addition to being able to look at mindset, those things are important, and I include them as part of what we're doing, the overall system and structure. But it's these are two of the elements that you need out of actually 8 that you need to be able to run a business properly. And we take people through that whole process and say, right, if you really are serious about growing and scaling your business, you need to look at marketing, you need to look at mindset, but you also need to look at leadership. You need to look at systems and processes. You need to look at, you know, how you're going to, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's kind of what we've set up to do at the moment, which is a slightly different proposition to what a lot of other business coaching enterprises are trying to do.
So your typical clients, are they people who are just starting out, or are they people with existing businesses?
Not at the moment. So this is phase 1. So we're very early still. So phase 1, I'm working with people who have got existing businesses and have actually got a business model that they've validated. They are probably around about the low, very low. They've just hit 6 figures. And what we'll do is we'll help them scale that to 7 figures and beyond, using the right systems and processes. What we're doing in the meantime, in the background, as part of our phase 2, is being able to create the right content and sort of media that we want to have for people that are just starting up as well. So then we will have the entire spectrum, and we're doing it in a way where I'm going to be using some of my own tech experience. So it's going to be understanding how people learn and understanding how people behave, and being able to give them the right content and the right media in the way that they need it for the stage that they're going to be at. But at this stage now, it's very, very simple. It's literally people who have got a validated business model. And at the moment, I'm actually working one-on-one as a very early beta phase, if you will, because I want to understand. I want to have some testimonials and case studies, which I've already had, and some people have had amazing results. And I just want to have a few more so that we can develop the that when we start scaling to one-to-many, we understand exactly how people behave and what people struggle through and go through. So that's kind of where I'm at the moment.
Okay. And are you going to create info products?
Yes. So I'm doing this in several different ways. So I'm actually not as an info product, but from a media content perspective, I'm going to be starting a YouTube channel on the 7th of July.
I was going to ask you about that, yes.
Yeah, so that's going to be a channel which I start, and I'm going to be providing pure value on that. That's no sales. It's literally, here's how I would run a business, and here's how I would scale a business, and these are the things that you do. And I'm actually going to be using growing my YouTube channel as a case study. So I'm going to say, if I'm going to grow this YouTube channel, what would I look at as a person, as an entrepreneur, trying to grow this and actually get it to a level where I think it should be and can be, and make money out of it. So I'm going to use that as a case study, using the systems I know. From an info product perspective, yes. So that's where I'm talking about creating for people that are starting up and being able to, and a little bit beyond. Once I go to a one-to-many perspective, and that's going to be probably towards the end of the year, we will have info products and courses online for entrepreneurs who really want to understand the right framework they need to work in. I see a lot of people doing these 3 steps and 5-step processes, and they trademark them. And everyone's different. No one runs a company in the same way. And I think that these processes can apply to a few people, but they won't apply to everyone. And that's why a lot of people will buy these processes, and some of them will have amazing results and the majority don't. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to actually create a framework instead of a step-by-step process. So this is the framework you need to have to be able to run a business. And if you're this type of person, this is how you would do it. And if you're that type of person, this is how you would do it. I am focusing a lot on the online businesses at the moment. So I'm trying to concentrate on one particular area. So people that are trying to grow their online businesses. But again, that will scale later on. I mean, my vision for this over the next five years or so is to have this as the go-to place for entrepreneurs of all shapes and sizes. I've grown businesses to that scale before, so I know how to do it. It's just going to take some time, and you need to start somewhere. You need to focus initially on one place, and then start adding and adding and adding.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so I'll share my screen.
Sure.
And we'll take a look at your website and so on.
Fantastic.
Hang on a second. So there we go. Can you see your website?
I can indeed.
Okay. So and I noticed that yes. So you've got at the top. I think you've got this quiz, haven't you? Which is
So if you go up to the top of the website, let me just move move it to another screen so I can see it on a slightly bigger way. Right. So if you go up to that website, you can see that initially at the very, and this is where we're starting to differentiate ourselves, is because we want to try and understand and get people to understand that each person has a different business challenge. So if you were to take the quiz, this quiz is actually, if you go through it, depending on how you take it, if you scroll up a little bit to actually see the text. So if you can actually go through this, and what it will do is it's almost like a business diagnostic. A lot of research and a lot of actually money has gone into this and experience in terms of trying to understand that sometimes people's problems are not what they think they are.
Right.
So, and what this is doing is it's going in and it's probing almost like a doctor, where it's trying to diagnose, okay, where are you in your business? How are you doing in your business? Have you done this? Okay, you have. Then it will ask a different question. And if you take the quiz twice and answer it in a different way, it will take you down a completely different path.
Okay.
So here, for example, it'll say, what's your single biggest challenge? We're trying to understand here what people think their biggest challenge are, but that's not necessarily what we're going to give them. So if you, for example, say, I'm keeping on top of my finances as an answer, and click that, you can say, right, my business turnover is whatever it is, 100K or 250K, whatever. And then you say that I have, it's just me, myself, and I, for example, in this case. And then here it will immediately say, why haven't you built a team? So you can see that it's actually
Okay.
asking each question based on your
Yes.
previous answer. Had
Yeah.
you said, I've got a team of 20, it wouldn't say.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you've got a small business, which is less than 100K, it won't even
Yes.
ask you, why haven't you built a team? But because
Yeah.
you've
Yeah.
said it's over 250K and it's just
Okay.
yourself, I think you're
So
under.
it's starting to dialogue with you like sort of
It,
artificial intelligence.
Exactly. It's so basically it's got a built-in sort of basic AI which will
Yeah.
grow and learn as it goes on at the moment,
Okay.
and it will then get to a point where it will say, all right, here is actually what we think is the root cause of your problem, which is actually the problem behind your problem. A lot of times people think, this is my problem.
Yes.
I'm overwhelmed because I'm not productive, and they go
Yeah.
around and they find productivity hacks, and
Yeah.
then they go and they get it fixed for like 2 days, and then they end up 10 days later being back to the same problem where they're overwhelmed and
Yes.
stressed again. And they don't realize that actually you haven't put the right systems and processes in place. And
Yes.
your problem is not getting productivity hacks at all. It's actually something else. And if you would have known that, you would have probably solved your problems by now.
So by going through this process, then you sort of present them with what you think probably is the real reason behind
Exactly.
everything, which they're not aware of. And then they see this, and then just they feel more confidence in you because you're able to sort of give them this insight.
Absolutely. And what it
Yeah.
will do then, and this is entirely free, by the way, you
Yeah.
don't pay for any of this. And then what you would do, it will do then at the end of this, it will give you your biggest #1 business challenge.
Okay.
You don't need to enter your email at that stage. It will
No.
actually tell you the results straight away. However, what it will also do is it will generate a custom report for you, and it will tell you why it's come to that conclusion. It will walk you through the process of your answers, and
Yes.
then it will actually tell you some action steps of what you should do to be able to tackle that. And that's a report that's generated if you basically give your email at that point.
Yes.
And that's kind of, if we're talking about marketing, that's our lead magnet, if you will.
Yes.
So this is a way for us to generate email addresses and getting them on
Yes.
our list. What
Yes.
we're doing at that point is basically saying it's still entirely free. You're
Yeah.
going to get a lot of value because you're going to really understand the insights of why we think this is your biggest business challenge.
Yeah.
And you're going to get some clear steps on how you can go about fixing it.
Yeah.
And it also allows us to segment people. So we now understand that this person who's given us this email address has this particular problem. And, do you see what I'm saying?
You tag them in your auto response.
We tag
Yeah.
them in the system. So all of the answers get tagged in a certain way, and we understand
Yeah.
exactly who is who.
Yeah.
And that's how we can later on learn, the system will learn to behave to when we start developing the info products. The info products will be presented to people who need what
Yes.
in the right
Yeah,
way,
that makes a lot of sense.
in
So
the same way that later on Facebook gives you your own news feed.
sure.
We're going to have our own feed, if you will.
So just out of interest, what software are you using to tag people and for
At
your
the moment, we're using Active Campaign.
active campaign? Yeah.
And within Active Campaign, we've got a lot of automations of
Yeah.
behavior, and if it, flows that are
Yes.
different based on different people, and it will take you through a different automation depending on how you've answered.
So that runs this quiz, does it? Active campaign?
No, so at the moment we are running this quiz off of Thrive Quiz Builder.
Oh, Thrive. Okay.
Which is just but we use this as the front end. What
Yes.
we've done is we've done a lot of automation behind the scenes in terms of how it actually pushes what questions out there, and then we understand it gets fed into a different system before Active Campaign, which generates the report and the PDF report.
Okay.
It will, the next version that will come out will be generated literally on the fly. At the moment, they're kind of standard templates based on the different outcomes of the results. But within the next 2 weeks, what we're going to have is that it will literally go to another system, work out what you're doing, have its own scores. It will give you a whole sort of like even charts and tell you this is how you've ranked, and generate the PDF report on the fly. And then it will
Okay.
just send it to you if you put in your email address.
Okay. And also, I had a look at your, well, I mean, looking at your website, at first when I looked at it, it was, I saw this Get Clarity thing and I saw the quiz. But that story that you just told me, I mean, I think it's such a powerful story,
Yeah.
and it's so engaging, and it really showcases your skill, you know. And I could just see talking to you, you've got this, you know, incredible knowledge, and I can see how you really help people. And I think the danger with a site like this is people might just come here and think, oh, it looks pretty, and you know, what's it, and then they might just sort of go away again. So that's why I'm always, well, on my sites, I always have this big video of me, you know, of me talking, because
Yeah.
I think that's the best way of communicating. But I noticed there's no videos of you actually on the site anywhere.
Not yet. There will be. So at the moment,
Okay,
we're filming some videos that will go on there.
okay,
If you scroll down, as you scroll down, so what we've done here is so you can see here, we'll talk about business makes or breaks us, business takes no prisoners, and we talk
yeah,
about all of these kind of who the ideal client or the person or the prospect that we're talking to,
yes,
which are small business owners that want to scale their business, but they're overwhelmed and they're stressed and they don't know how the thing. As you scroll down here, that's where you've got me, and it will tell my story
that's
here.
right. Yes, exactly.
So I chose that on purpose because I
Yeah,
know that a lot of other sites will bring that front and center.
yes,
And I don't want this to be a personal brand
okay,
company.
okay,
I will use my story, obviously, and I will bring that to the forefront. The YouTube channel will serve a lot of that in theory.
mm.
So there'll be new videos once every week. So if you're watching, please go and subscribe, CEO Entrepreneur.
So this is your going to be your YouTube channel. You
It's not even at the
haven't
moment,
even got
it's
it
not
yet.
even there. So I'll put a link down to it at the moment. So like I said, this is all early days. So these are some testimonials of some people that we've helped
Yeah,
above there. And then as you scroll down, then it gives you an opportunity, a little bit more information about the quiz. And then you go down and then it goes through the articles and the blogs that we've got.
yes.
So the reason why I've done this is because I don't want this to be a business that I can't sell later on.
Okay, yeah, you're
So
looking at your exit strategy right from day
if
one,
this
which
is,
is a very good discipline to
yeah.
have,
So
isn't
if this is tamershahin.com, then I'd have my picture front and center.
it? Yes,
I would build it around
like
my
my
person,
site is Keith Griggs.
which is the right thing to do for you because you're building
Yes,
a personal brand, and that's
yes.
where you need to put yourself as the main thing.
Mm.
I'm going to use my experience and my story to try and build CEO Entrepreneur, but I don't want CEO Entrepreneur to be
Yeah,
Shahin, if that makes sense. And
it
I know
does. Yeah,
I've spoken about myself in the third person. I never do. So
yeah,
apologies for that.
yeah. Yeah, it looks great. Yeah.
So
So,
yeah, but how would you change it if it was you? It would be because obviously you've got experience from a marketing mindset.
well, okay. Well, so first of all, have you got Google Analytics?
Yes, we do.
Do you ever? Because I'll be interested to know what the bounce rate from this site is, and
We've actually
also
got
I'm interested to know how many people start the quiz and then run out of patience, and then because you know we've all got very short attention spans on the internet, and well, I started clicking before when I thought I was just like a 2-question quiz, and then
yeah.
it just kept on with more and more questions. And okay, if I had, so you've explained to me now the compelling reasons why it's important to answer all these questions, but without that knowledge, I think a lot of people might give up. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
Bear in mind that when this website has just literally recently launched. This is a
yes,
new business that I'm setting up. I
yeah,
actually had the clients that I did. I met them at networking events and started doing this offline before even there was a website up.
yeah,
My discipline in running businesses is, and I know a lot of people sit there and try and get things perfect before they
yeah.
go and launch things. I don't believe in that. If you
No,
want to really grow your business, you push something out and you improve it as you go
no,
along.
exactly. Yeah, I
So
agree.
what I've done here is literally said, right, let me put a placeholder. So this is now
Yes.
a placeholder,
Oh, okay.
and we will be building a lot of the stuff on top of it. So at the moment now, I've got a copywriter who's actually writing a landing page for the quiz. So as soon
Okay.
as you land on the quiz, we are going to have that compelling story, which I've just told you, on
Yes.
there,
Yeah.
plus the videos that I'm going to be recording,
Okay.
so on and so forth. So yes, I agree with you. It's not there yet. There's not even a services page up there. It's literally just a website which has the homepage, the about page. Insights is the blog,
Yes.
which we've set up really well. So you can actually even do a search on the left, and it will filter out articles based around what you're looking for.
Yeah.
And we're going to, once I launch the YouTube channel on the 7th of July, we're going to have a separate section for the videos, which will have their own long form. So I'll repurpose those videos.
Oh, you will.
They will be repurposed into blog articles, and that will
Yes.
go onto Instagram, onto Facebook Live,
Oh, you will do that, yeah. Okay.
Facebook and LinkedIn. So
Okay.
I haven't, so you've caught me right at the beginning, which is exciting
Okay.
because you've caught me right at the beginning of launching this business.
Yes.
I haven't officially. So when I'm talking to you about this business now, this is the first time I've actually spoken about it in public.
Oh, really? Okay.
Which is fantastic. And I'm really happy and proud to do that on your show. From next month, that's when people will begin to see the marketing campaign start for the YouTube channel, for the posts, for the website, and a lot of the stuff you'll see that we've been talking about now in terms of landing page for the quiz, in terms of all of these things, the videos of me, that will be on there. And that's why we haven't started promoting all of this yet, because it's not quite ready. But it doesn't mean that I can't share the links and I can't talk to people about it.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I mean, okay, you asked me what I would change as well. I think if it was, well, yeah, so we've spoken about some of the things. Also, I think in terms of a lead magnet, I would, rather than rely on people to take the quiz, I would have like something they can download. Like on my site, I have a downloads blueprint, mind map, and transcript. It just seems like, you know, click and then put your email, and then you sort of get something. In a way, that's easier, and it's an easier sell than asking people to sort of do a quiz. I mean, you'd have to split test both and find out what works. But I think, yeah, the most important thing is to get them to get their email address. But at least, presumably, you would put pixels on here, like Facebook advertising pixels. So at least you can retarget people who've come to your site.
Yeah, absolutely. This is kind of what we're doing and working in the background at the moment. I completely agree with you. What we're going to also be doing is, as we develop the different content that we're doing, we're going to have content upgrades for them, and they become our lead magnets as well as split testing the first page. The reason why we wanted to start with the quiz is because we feel that people, especially entrepreneurs who are struggling, which is our target audience, they typically want to try and understand what the hell is going wrong. Why am I doing this? It is easy for you sometimes to download a standard checklist or a piece of like content. However, getting insight and getting an assessment for free for you as well, if it's a very quick thing, a lot of people will typically go and do these personality assessments. This is not a personality assessment; it's a business diagnostic, if you will.
Yes.
But it's in a similar vein. But absolutely, we plan to split test all of these, and we're in the process of putting pixels at the moment. But yes, I completely agree with you. I think that you're absolutely right that this is something that we should be doing and are actually working on in the background.
Yes, and you do mention here actually it's 3 minutes. Which I'm sure most people, if they think about it, they can spare 3 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So and we've done in previous businesses that I've had, I've seen quizzes are really popular. People sometimes, I think that if you give a long report, that's not as good. If you're like giving a white paper or something, I think checklists do amazingly well.
Something they know that they're not going to have to spend
exactly
a lot of time
blueprint. A blueprint, cheat sheet. What you've done is fantastic. I've also found that quizzes actually convert really well if you target the right people, and that's what it's about. It's what you want is to actually target your quality leads rather than just anyone.
How will you target your the people? Presumably you talk about with Facebook ads or Google ads or...
Yes, we're going to try when we launch. Obviously, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have several ways to drive traffic to the website. One of them will be the YouTube channel, but the YouTube channel is a long game. It's not going to grow overnight. I understand that. So in the meantime, we're going to be targeting people on LinkedIn and Facebook, as well as Instagram, but we're focusing on the other two at the moment.
I'm surprised you say Instagram because I wouldn't have thought that many CEOs would go on to Instagram.
We're not targeting CEOs. That's the point. We're targeting
Okay.
small business people, people that
Okay.
are running their businesses and want to take it to the next level. What we're
Okay.
going to be doing is we're going to be transforming them into CEOs of their own business, no
Right.
matter how small the business is. So I'm not targeting large scale organization CEOs. If I was,
No.
I would only be looking at LinkedIn. I wouldn't even be,
Yes.
looking at other places. So we did a study to see where people are hanging out, and a lot of people that are in that particular space where they are struggling solopreneurs that have turned over 6 figures but don't know where to go from there, and they're overwhelmed. They haven't hired any people. They've got only a few people that they're outsourcing. A lot of them hang out on Facebook and Instagram.
Okay.
Not so much actually LinkedIn. So LinkedIn are the slightly bigger companies, which is what we're targeting on a different phase. So the
Yeah.
ones that we're taking at a higher end, and these are the ones that will be at a much higher price point, a higher ticket price,
Yeah. Yeah.
as well as um, a sort of a more personal one-to-one basis. Those are people that we will typically target on LinkedIn. The
Okay.
other, the lower end, and I don't mean lower end in a bad way, but I mean the lower end in terms of people where they are in their business stage. We will be targeting them on Facebook and Instagram.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Well, it sounds great. So I'll just show you a bit what I'm doing. Yeah. So I think you've looked at my website, and I've done my strategy. I've sort of explained my sort of 10-step system, which I'm using, which is to just produce a lot of content. And I think you're planning on doing something similar, where you're producing a lot of videos, you're publishing it on YouTube, and you said you're repurposing it on different
Not
platforms.
doing live streaming though.
You're not doing live streaming, no. I mean, you never know. That's maybe something you might incorporate.
It might be. It might be something that I plan to do on Facebook Live or LinkedIn Live. It might be something that it's not
I,
on my calendar or radar yet at the moment.
no, and the Dream 100. You're familiar with the Dream 100? What that
Yes.
means? Yeah. Okay. So presumably, would you be trying to connect up with other people with audiences and
Yes,
get
already
audiences?
have.
Yeah, you
Already
already
have. Yeah,
started doing
yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah.
And then the attention engine is just literally just sort of advertising, which you said you're going to be doing. And then I think you also mentioned retargeting, didn't you? You're going to
Yes,
retarget people who've been to your
yes.
website. So, which is this call to action to a warm audience. And then creating a sales funnel, which you're doing in active campaign. So it seems to be that you are sort of basically following something like this sort of system anyway, or you will be.
I think your
Yeah.
system is really good. I think
Yeah.
it's really clear for a lot of people, because one of the things that I find as well that people tend to do, when you say this blueprint, let me ask you a question. Are you
Yes.
saying that you need to do it in this order, or are you saying that you need to do it at
No, I mean this. No, I mean you can adapt it how you want, but this seemed to be the logical order. I think. I mean, how would you do it differently then if you were? I mean, you're proposing doing a different order?
I haven't, to be honest, I haven't got an opinion one way or another.
Okay. No,
I,
but this seems the logical. I mean, the first one isn't really a step. It's just to start with the end goal in mind, which I think is important to have, and then obviously start setting up your channels and so on, and then just producing videos and syndicate. It seems to be the logical order to me.
I
I mean,
think
you could have the sales funnel slightly early, I suppose. You could create that, but
so
this is
I
designed to create
started
the
it.
audience first, and then
Yeah.
yeah, you've got some data to work with.
How I started it is I had my sales funnel from the beginning, early on.
Okay.
So after my objective and setup, I had my sales funnel early on. And the reason why I did that is I wanted to create some solid case studies. And I wanted to validate that the business model worked first. There's no point me going through all of this and then finding out that actually there's no business here and it's not going to sell and there are no clients. So I wanted to make sure that you validate the business first.
Yes.
And to do that, you need to make sure that you've got a sufficient number of paying clients and you've actually delivered your promise to them in a
Yes.
successful and satisfactory manner. Once you know that you can do that, then you start adding all the other stuff in the process whilst you're optimizing your sales funnel, which is what we're doing at the moment. Because
Yes.
obviously, as we're growing and scaling, it's not the same as doing it for a few people.
That's right.
It will change, and that's probably where it needs to come in, because at that point you've built your tribe and you've built your audience, and now you're saying to them, all right, here's how I can serve you. And in some cases, what they want is different to what you've initially set out that you wanted to do. And that's why, from my perspective, it's about it. So I follow in the same way in the tech world. I follow something called the lean startup way.
Yes,
You're testing every single step of the way and making sure you're measuring, and that's what we've been doing. So I just wanted to make sure that I validated that business model first, understand that we can deliver on it, and then add all of that stuff on. But
I was going to say that lean startup methodology is, it's also the basis of what I'm working from as well.
Fantastic. And that's why I think you're on the right process. And what I was going to say when I said, when I asked the question, is it in a certain step-by-step process? I actually think that it's important for people to focus on one thing at a time. I think a lot of times people sit there and try and do everything.
Of course.
And when they try and do everything, they achieve next to nothing, because they're scattered.
Well, you get overwhelmed, don't you?
You get overwhelmed and you're running around like a headless chicken. And it's just not, and you don't actually achieve what you want to achieve.
Well, that is why I like the idea of having 10 steps, because we can only do one thing at a time. And then if you download my mind map, you get this. So each step is then broken down into like individual things. So, I mean, that's sort of how I work to start off with the overview and then just really break it down to step.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. That's really good. So, in terms of the attention engine, I know it's like, how long is a piece of string, but how long do you need to be doing this for? And what?
Well, you can do it. You can do as much or as little as you like. Because with Facebook, with your advertising, you can turn it off and on. But this is what I'm doing. So, so obviously. So first of all, are you aware of this software, shieldapp.ai?
No.
This is a Chrome add-in that analyzes your LinkedIn content marketing. So these are my posts in LinkedIn. Cool. And you can sort by views, look at how many likes, comments they got, and you get lots of graphs. So it just gives you a lot of data that's hard to get otherwise. And the goal is to get audiences that you can retarget to. So, for example, I've got 1,200 people who've watched 95% of my video views. And the way I got that was to do this attention engine, which I can do, which is basically, so all my videos, I can promote these to people who are interested in other people that I think might be interested in what I'm doing. For example, Tony Robbins, Robert Kiyosaki, or people like that. People are interested in that. I show them my video to them, and then if they watch 95% of this, then they go into my audience. So fantastic. I think it's, so you just do a bit at first, and then if you need more, you can just do a few more ads. So it's sort of flexible.
That's really good. That's something similar in line with what we're planning to do with the YouTube videos, because we want to try and understand how many people are watching what percentage of the video on Facebook when we push it onto Facebook as well as LinkedIn. So and understanding that the people that have shown interest in this, we're going to retarget them at a later stage. So that's really good. But I'm happy that you introduced me to this tool, because I wasn't aware of it. So thank you.
The Shield app, which one?
Yeah, shieldapp.ai.
Shield app, yeah. I actually found out doing another episode of my show. I was speaking to Melanie Koshot, and she told me about it. So that's why I love doing this show, because I get to learn, so much from talking to different people about all the different ideas. Anyway, it's coming up to the hour, so I'm sure you're very busy. So we better. We better call it today. Well, it's been fascinating speaking to you, Tamer, and I wish you all the best in your new venture. And I'm sure many people will benefit from it. And I'll be following the site with interest to see how you're going to develop it, and then at some point in the future, when you've sort of finally exited, I'll see how many hundreds of millions of pounds you sell it for. So
thank you.
Very, very interesting. So, okay.
I'll
That's
say
it.
that you were there from the beginning, and
I
you
was, yes. That's great.
fantastic. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Appreciate it.
Bye
Thank
for
you.
now.
Bye bye. Bye.
So,
Cheers. Bye.